Good, good.
Long day at work.
Long day at work. You just finished?
Oh yeah.
Nice, 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 nice. For sure. What you want to start off with us today?
All right. All right, Avery. Okay. All right, Avery. Listen. Avery, listen.
I'm listening.
All right. All right. What do you mean by Muslim? Why do you play these word games, Avery? Why do you play these fucking word games?
What language?
Excuse the
Language?
Excuse
Language?
excuse the language. Excuse the language. Astaghfirullah. What do you mean by Muslim? Why do you play these word games?
Well, you guys say he's a Muslim, so whatever you guys mean by it.
Yeah, but you know what we mean when you say he's a Muslim. You know what we mean by that.
What do you mean?
It means that he submitted his will to God.
Which God?
You know what we mean? For God's sake! Excuse me, blasphemy.
No, it's okay. You can say for Allah's sake.
Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep doing this, Avery? You know what we mean by it.
Because I want you guys to start thinking about what you actually say.
Your issue is
which God?
You conflate the term Muslim with the theological foundations and of Islam and the Quran and everything like that. Why do you conflate it all together rather than understanding that it can be a term applied to historic prophets in time? It doesn't have to be.
Let me ask. Okay, let me ask. Can someone be considered a Muslim and they go against the Islamic tenets? The core doctrines of Islam. Can someone be a Muslim and go against the core doctrines of Islam?
Openly go against them? No.
Okay. So that's why. Because being a Muslim is intrinsically tied to Islamic core doctrine. And so if you're outside of that, you're not a Muslim.
Okay, so where does Jesus Christ go outside of that?
Well, you have to show me that he's in line with it. You have to show me that he, in his beliefs and his teachings and his practices, aligned with Islamic doctrine. That's what you have to show me. That's why I say prove that he was a Muslim.
Yeah, well, I'm making the claim that according to our historiography, he is in line with
according to your what?
So now you can.
I'm sorry.
So our historiography. Our historiography.
Historiography?
Yeah, according to our sources, he is in line with it. So now it's not a problem of negation or a claim. You can now just provide the opposite and say
no, it's a claim. You're saying according to my source, which is I would assume is the Quran, right?
Of course.
Right. So the Quran that comes
logic itself.
Okay, fine. So according to the Quran that comes 600 years later. It makes a claim about Jesus, somebody who existed, 600 years prior. So it's a claim on a historical figure. So what you have to do is you have to provide historical evidence that the claim that the Quran makes about Jesus is true.
Okay, yeah. Can you clarify for me? Did the Pharisees seek Jesus' death according to Christian history because he claimed to be the king of the Jews, or because he claimed to be God?
What does it have to do with what we're talking about?
Well, here's the thing, right? It would be a much bigger violation, surely, if he was to claim to be God, right?
But what does that have to do with the question here?
Well, your entire argument presupposes the fact that, Jesus was claiming to be embodying God, which would go against the Islamic principles, right?
I don't claim to.
Which is what we need to do.
Well, I don't claim that he embodied God. I believe he is God, and that he said that he was God. But my belief doesn't matter here. My belief doesn't matter. I'm asking for the evidence historically that Jesus believed, lined up with, and practiced Islam.
Well, yeah, obviously we get into this problem, don't we? We have to use your sources.
And that's the problem, isn't it? Is that the
Because
historic
that's the only sources you'll trust.
that's the only sources that's trustworthy. The only sources that are trustworthy on the life of Jesus are the, you know, I wouldn't say the only sources that are trustworthy per se, but I would say the primary sources that are trustworthy on the life of Jesus is the New Testament. Those are the historical sources that we use.
Okay. Okay, so you expect me to believe that our understanding of Jesus being Muslim is incorrect because your early texts, your Bible, everything you have goes against Islamic fundamentals.
Everything
Okay.
we know about Jesus historically contradicts Islam.
Okay, which Islamic fundamentals or being aspects of being a Muslim does it contradict?
Well, see that you're trying to switch the question. What you have to show me is that Jesus lined up with the core doctrines of Islam and didn't contradict them. That's what I'm asking for the proof of. And then when you show me these evidences, we'll look at that and see if it holds.
Okay, if I use your sources, is that a problem for you?
I think that's what you should be using. So please, by all means.
Okay, he states that he was sent by God to conduct his will, correct?
Where does he say that? What's the verse?
Or he was sent down by the Father, correct?
Sent by the Father.
In John.
That's right. He does say he was sent by the Father.
Okay.
Is Allah his Father?
That's an aspect of prophethood. That's an aspect of following a singular entity called God.
Is Allah his Father?
No.
So that's a core doctrine that goes against Islam, right?
We don't. Yeah, it says explicitly that we do not call God the Father.
Exactly. So then
I'm giving you the closest examples according to your sources.
Well,
of an instance of prophecy or prophethood in which a prophet is sent to spread a message and has been endowed with this message by a singular, all-powerful entity.
But notice this though. Notice how the closest thing you can get to is something that contradicts the core doctrine of Islam, that Allah is not a father and he has no children.
Because I'm using your sources, Avery.
Yeah, so according to the sources that we have, it shows that Jesus is the opposite of a Muslim then, right?
Yeah, your sources are objectively false, even not considering Islam.
Okay. So
by pure logic alone. Come on, you expect me to believe those Jews in that region in the Middle East all began to serve the rabbi and were willing to be put to death for the rabbi, a guy who was walking around claiming to be the son of God and literally God incarnate? I mean, come on, stop taking the piss, Avery. Come on.
Well, I don't think that Scott, I got to stop you there, okay? None of this helps, okay? What we have seen so far, that based on the evidence, based on the primary source, Jesus is not a Muslim because he says that God is his father, which goes directly against the core of Islam, Allah not being a father to anyone.
I've already explained to you this, like every one of the topics you debate. This is why you don't debate in earnest, with all due respect.
This is why I don't debate what?
You don't debate in earnest with sincerity.
Oh,
because all the topics, because all the topics you pick are ones where the fundamentals of the topic are so dichotic between the two faiths that there's no synergy.
Let's debate. Let's debate in earnest together. Let's debate honestly and in earnest together. Give me the proof. Give me a reliable source. Okay, historically that demonstrates that Jesus indeed lined up with core Islamic doctrine.
You want me to use your biblical sources to prove that Jesus was a Muslim?
Use whatever is historically reliable, man. Historically reliable on the life of Jesus, where we get information about Jesus. Use that to show me that Jesus was a Muslim.
The only historical records of Jesus Christ come from either the Bible or second-hand accounts from Roman and otherwise historians from that era.
Say that.
Around a century. Around a
Say
century.
that. Say that one more time. Where? Wait.
And then secondary.
Wait, dude.
And then secondary
Your
to that,
sound. Your
the
sound
Quran.
started a little distorted. You said the only sources we have in the life of Jesus is what again? What was the first thing you mentioned?
From the first 2 centuries, the sources that we have are the New Testament and the second-hand historian accounts from the likes of Tacitus, Josephus, etc., which again are only recorded several centuries afterwards. But yeah, those are the first 2 century accounts.
Nice.
And then the other accounts are the ones that we have in Islam, which is the Quran.
All right. So the historical sources.
Which are,
hold on, Scott, you're cooking right now, man. You're doing good. So the historical sources that we have on the life of Jesus are number one, the New Testament documents. That's the earliest that we have. Secondly, are the secondary sources by Roman historians, Josephus, Tacitus, Pliny the Younger, other people like this, and then thirdly, you just have what comes hundreds of years after that, which would be Islamic sources, the Quran, right?
Which, by the way, your inability to accept the Quranic source as valid, I find to be not entirely objectively reasonable. Because
can I tell you why?
And I'm not speaking here even from an Islamic perspective.
You are though.
Just from a
You're speaking from an Islamic perspective, Scott.
No. It's actually not reasonable because it was recited in the latter half of the 6th and early half of the 7th century. And there were Christians in that time who had been following through oral tradition for centuries the original Christianic belief. So to say that these are not legitimate sources is quite ridiculous, to be honest.
Wait, stop. You're saying that Christians in 7th century Arabia had true Christianity, and they had sources where they had true Christianity, and you're saying that I'm denying those sources that they had?
Well, you're denying that a document in the 7th century can be valid.
No, I'm not.
Is what you're denying.
No, I'm not.
You did say that earlier.
No, Scott, let me be clear. Okay? Let me be clear. I am not saying that a 7th century document is automatically invalid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that a 7th century document is not the authority on the historicity of something that came 700 years prior when you have evidence to the contrary. That's earlier. That's vastly attested, independent sources. So when you already have things that are early, have multiple attestation, independent sources, they already passed the historic criteria. So a 7th century document, it can be valid as long as it lines up with the historical sources that come before. If it contradicts them, then it is something that is ahistorical, meaning it goes against history.
Did Jesus submit his will to God?
Which God?
What you call God the Father?
God the Father? Yes, he submitted to his Father.
And is the definition of a Muslim one who submits his will to God?
To Allah specifically of the Quran, who's not a father.
Now you're placing an extra differentiator, which is to claim that our God and your God are different, which we both know is not the case.
Well, we're using logic, right? You said we got to use logic, so let's use it. We got to use your logic. If Allah says, for example, look. If I say I'm a Muslim, and the God that I submit to is my statue, is that Allah? Is the God that I'm serving Allah?
Of course not. And we both, but of course not. I hope you're not a Catholic and you believe that's okay.
Okay. No slander in the Catholics, please. So look, even though I say that I'm worshiping God, I'm submitting to God as a Muslim, but the God that I'm talking about is a statue I have in my closet, you said, no, that's not Allah. Why? Why is the statue that I'm talking about, that I call God, that I say is the one creator of the universe, why are you saying that that's not Allah?
It goes against the 10 Commandments.
Where?
Thou shalt not make graven images.
But wait, hold on a second. If you're talking about the 10 Commandments, that has nothing to do with Allah. That's Yahweh. I'm talking about Allah.
Doesn't matter. We follow that principle in Islam.
No, you don't. Why do you say that the
Yes,
statue
we do.
that I'm worshiping, that I'm submitting to, and I call God, the one God who created all things, that is not Allah?
So hang on a second. Are you saying now that what you define as God?
I need you to answer my question, my brother.
So apologies. Repeat the question.
Why are you saying that the statute that I'm worshiping, that I say is the one God who I submit to, why do you say that that's not Allah?
That's not how we define Allah.
Very good. So because you define Allah in a specific way, anything that goes out of that definition is not Allah, right?
Correct.
Good. So when you define Allah, is Father one of the ways that you define Allah?
No.
Very good. So if Jesus is praying to his God, who he says is his Father, that's not how you define Allah. So therefore, he's not talking about Allah. That's not Allah who he's submitting to.
Yes, but you've conflated two things. So
What, your words? I conflated your words together. Huh?
It's not that in this instance it is a separate identifier or entity. It's simply a matter of confusion on your side.
Okay, so when I'm worshiping my statue, we'll go back to this again. I'm worshiping and submitting to my statue. Hold on, let me land this. Let me land this.
Hang on a second.
Let me land this, man. This is perfect. If I submit to my statue, right? This idol, this statue that I say is God who created all things, it's not really that it's not Allah. It's just that I'm confused about Allah. Is that right?
Yes.
So the statute is, I am referring, it is Allah, but I'm just.
Wait, no, not the statue. Let me give you a better example.
What do you mean better?
Let's
this
say,
is perfect.
let me give you a better example.
This is perfect.
Let's say, let's say you and I are standing in a field and there's a single tree in the field, okay? And I point to this tree and I say, this is Zaza. And you point to the tree and say, this is blah, blah. And I say, you and I are both pointing to Zaza. And you say, no, we're both pointing to blah, blah. We're both pointing at the same thing. We're just calling it different things.
Nice.
Okay? So you call God the Father, which you're mistaken about. It's actually called Zaza. Okay? Okay? And we don't call it Father. We're talking about the same thing.
Right. And if I identify Allah, if I identify Allah as the statue, wait, excuse me. If I identify Allah as my statue, are we talking about the same thing?
No, because we're not talking about the same topic, all right?
We are. We're talking about God. I'm saying God is the statue. Are we talking about the same thing?
You believe God is a statue?
In this example. And are we talking about the same thing?
No.
Scott, please keep up, man. I want to keep you here. So
I am keeping up with you, but the example you're using is fallacious. I've shown you why it's fallacious.
You're not showing me why it's fallacious. I went exactly with what you're saying. So if I'm referring to my statute as God, you're referring to something as God that's invisible. It's not a statue. I'm referring to my physical statute as God. Are we referring to the same thing?
But can we please talk about what we actually define? Yes, but can we stick to what we actually both believe God to be?
Look, you and I both agree that God is creator of all things, right?
Yes.
Good. So I believe that God is the creator of all things. There's no partner to him, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. I say that about my statute. My statute is the creator of all things.
But you don't actually believe that.
Stop. My statute is the creator of all things. My statute has no partner. Is that Allah?
No.
So we're talking about two different things because Allah is defined in a specific way and he has a specific nature and characteristic while my statute does not fit that definition, right?
Yes, Avery, please give me one moment. I understand the argument you're making, but the reason it's fallacious is because the statue example is not what you actually as a Christian believe. You don't actually believe a statue to hold these attributes.
We're not talking about Christians. We're talking about your definition of Muslim.
It has nothing to do with me being a Christian. I understand
I understand what you're attempting to do, but it's fallacious.
You're still not telling me I was fallacious.
What
I'm explaining it to you. What would be better here is if we both establish what we believe God to be.
We already did that. So if I already gave stop. Because you running from this example doesn't help you. You see the problem. You see the problem. Don't cut me off right now, please. So if you say that you see the point that I'm making, then you see the problem. Stop saying, "Oh, well, let's actually talk to you as a Christian. You don't believe the Christian statute is a law. It doesn't matter if I'm a Christian, if I'm a pagan idolater. It doesn't matter. If my definition of God, if my concept of God does not match the definition of Allah in Islam, then I'm not talking about Allah." Does that make sense?
Of course.
Okay. Does the definition of Allah fit Father? Yes or no?
Not Father, no.
So then if I'm saying that the God that I submit to is my Father, am I talking about Allah?
You have a mistaken understanding of Allah.
Am I talking about Allah? It's a yes or no.
We could be talking about the same thing, but you have a mistaken attribute,
right?
Which is the Father attribute.
So again, if I'm with the statute, I could just be mistaking about Allah by attributing him to a statute. I'm talking about Allah, but I'm just wrong that he's a statue. Is that correct?
If you hold all other attributes except you were to point to a statue, you'd be mistaken about saying he has some kind of physical capacity, or you can be measured as a statue. Yeah,
got it. So just to be clear, if I say that my statue, if I say that my statue is the creator of all things, is the maker of all things, there's no partner, I'm still talking about Allah, but I'm just wrong to attribute him to being a statue. I'm still talking about Allah, though.
But certain attributes are different to others. So, for example, if you describe something as, Father is a descriptive word.
It's an identity.
Yeah, it's an identity. So it's not the same as saying something is a statue, for
instance.
It is the same.
One is it's the same. Let me tell you why. It's the same because, like you said earlier, we don't define Allah that way, so that's not Allah. So it matters. Do you define Allah as Father? No. So if you're saying that God is Father, it's not Allah. It's that simple.
Hang on a second. I gave you the example of the tree. Let me give you another example because you didn't understand my example.
No, I understood your example. Scott, I understand your example. For example, I know you as Scott. Your mom knows you as Son. So if she says my son is on TikTok and I say Scott's on TikTok, we're talking about the same person, just referring to you as a different name, different title. Same person though, right? Boom. Okay. Correct. So I understand. Trust me, I understand your example. And hopefully it sounds like you understood mine, but you don't want to conclude with what the problem is. You cannot say that if I'm saying that a statute is God, that I'm talking about Allah. You said that, yeah, that's not Allah in the beginning, but now you're struggling now to say that, oh, well, either it's not Allah outright or that I'm just wrong about Allah. So which one is it? When I'm saying that my statute is God, is that really Allah that I'm talking about, but I'm just wrong about him? Or is this just not Allah at all? Which one is it?
The issue is there's a fundamental theological issue here, okay? You're looking for there to be a one-to-one, 100% relationship between the attributes you define in Christian text with the Islamic
text. Which one is it? When I say that I submit to my statute who created all things, is that Allah? Or am I just wrong about Allah?
My belief is that we both refer to the same being. However, on the attribute of the Father, that is a mistake on your part.
That's not what I asked you. When I say I submit to my statute, am I talking about Allah or am I just wrong about Allah?
Are you talking about Allah or are you wrong about Allah? No, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. It's a different scale rather than saying Father. It's a different scale.
All right. So let me go with you. Let me go with you on this.
You're attributing human qualities to God.
Right. So we're wrong. We're wrong about Allah when we say God is a statue. We're wrong about Allah. Okay, cool. So now let's go with that. So if we say that God is a Father, then we're wrong about Allah, right?
Correct. We're wrong about God.
We're wrong about Allah. Okay. So when Jesus said that God is his father, was he wrong about Allah?
I don't believe he said that.
You quoted the Bible. Was he wrong about Allah in the Bible?
Yeah, this is the problem we come into, Avery. This is the problem we face. It's the problem we face.
Got it. So Jesus was wrong about Allah. Is that correct?
I don't believe Jesus was wrong about anything personally, except
Then Allah is his father then.
But I don't believe he said he was his father either.
Okay. How did Jesus pray? Tell me. What do you think?
There is no single instance where it elucidates very clearly how Jesus prayed in detail in the biblical text.
Really? You said
please refer.
You said in the biblical text there's no detailed example of how Jesus prayed?
Yes, step by step.
What about in the Quran? Is there a detailed explanation of how Jesus prayed?
Besides, obviously we have Matthew, etc. But I'm talking about
so there is an example of how Jesus prayed. Nice. How did he pray?
Yeah, but you understand what I mean when I say like a detailed step by step. Every motion, etc.
How did he pray, man? That's all I want to know. How did he pray?
I believe he prayed similarly to. There are multiple manners in which he prayed.
Let me ask you this: if you wanted to know how Jesus prayed, wait. Let me just ask you this, Scott. If you wanted to know how Jesus prayed, where would you go to find that out?
What do you mean? You mean as a Muslim or as a Christian? As a Muslim, we believe he prayed in accordance with how we've always prayed, which I believe is accounted for in the Bible as well. But again, in the Bible, there's multiple manners in which he prays.
Scott, stop talking. Scott, stop talking, please. If you wanted to know how Jesus prayed, where would you go?
As a what? As a Muslim or as a Christian?
Period. You know what? Let's do it this way. As a Muslim, show me how Jesus prayed. Go ahead.
What?
As a Muslim, show me the reference that shows you how Jesus prayed.
I don't recall in the Hadith of Quran the exact reference to his manner of praying.
So you don't have this information in the Quran. Okay. So if you wanted to know how Jesus prayed, or the Hadith, if you wanted to know how Jesus prayed, where would you go? You don't have it in the Quran or Hadith, so where would you go?
If I wanted a Christian understanding of how he prayed, I would look.
No, just where would you go? Period. If you just want to, man, you know what? I wonder how Jesus prayed. Peace be upon him. May his peace be upon me. I want to know how he prayed. Where would you go?
What do you mean? I would look at the biblical text.
There you go. You would go to the Bible. And when you go to the Bible and you see how Jesus prayed, how did he pray?
Like I said, I don't remember exactly, but I believe there are multiple manners in which he prayed.
You're right. There are multiple manners in how he prayed. You're absolutely right. And in each of these examples, however, there's one thing that's consistent. What do you think that is?
The reference to the Father?
The reference to his Father. So when we look historically, and the only source in all of humanity that we have on how Jesus prayed, we have the New Testament that tells us. And every time we see Jesus praying, the one who he's praying to is his Father in heaven. So historically, is Jesus a Muslim?
What? That's corrupted.
Thanks for coming, Scott.
Wait! Don't draw me this yet.
I do. I got other guests, man. I have other guests.
Who cares about the other guests?
I do, man. Look, next time I'll let you host. And you can let up whoever you want. Okay.
Okay, sure. All right, why not? But by the way, prove Jesus was a Christian, and I'll give you $10,000.
Okay. All right. Next time. All right. Take care, Scott. Love you, brother.
Take care. Bye-bye.